أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We start off by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending our peace and blessings upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge and sincerity and acceptance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us wisdom, for indeed the individual that was granted wisdom, he was granted an abundant good. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people of the Quran always, to lighten our vision with the Quran and to lighten our hearing with the light of the Quran and to lighten our comprehension with the comprehension of the Quran. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift and bounty of the masjid. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift and the bounty of knowledge. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift and bounty of pious companionship. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift and bounty of the obligations of Allah and the prohibitions of Allah. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down for us and commanded us to do is for our own good, and everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited us to stay away from is for our own good. Whether we comprehend these commandments and prohibitions or not, you have to understand something very important. Whether your mind comprehends the wisdom behind something or a commandment of God, it's for your own good. Allah does not command with bad, and Allah does not command with indecency. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ أَتَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not command with something indecent. Do you say upon, or do you speak upon Allah without knowledge? So inshallah, as we move forward in this class, we realize that all of these sins that we've been reading about in these sicknesses and illnesses of the heart, when someone leaves them off, he receives something. When you leave off sin, you receive something. When you leave off and stop committing sins, you receive something. And when you fulfill and perform obligations of God, you also receive something. The person of understanding, he can make correlations. The person of deep understanding, he can make correlations, and he sees that when he leaves off certain things, he gains certain things. And when he performs certain things, he gains certain things. That's that when you leave off sinning, you receive a lot. You receive contentment in your heart, and iman in your heart, and taqwa in your heart. You receive good mental health and good physical health. Because sinning, it brings you down. It's heavy. Sinning is like chains. When you commit sins, it brings you down and it's very heavy on your heart and your chest. And the person with a clean conscience, the person with a clean heart, and he's constantly looking to purify his heart, he sleeps good and he's light. He's light. He walks on the earth lightly. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. The servants of Allah are the servants of the Most Merciful, as Allah characterizes them with the first characteristic: they walk on the earth lightly. You walk on the earth lightly because you're humble. Humility is a beautiful virtue. But ultimately, the more you sin, the heavier you are. Wallahi. Sinning holds you down and makes you slow. And we've been talking about different illnesses of the heart, different ailments. We've been speaking about in this book different types of problems that your heart may have, and different bad characteristics that we want to rid ourselves of. And we're going to eventually move into good things that we want to implement, such as sincerity and truthfulness, etc. The more you do good, and the more you implement good, and the more you look to be good, and you have good etiquette, the better you see the quality of your life and the happier you become, because you're close to Allah. And the more you refrain from sinning and you stay away from haram, the better you become. We were saying that sins, they bring you down and they grant you weakness. Weakness of the heart, spiritual weakness, weakness of the mind, mental weakness, weakness of the body, physical weakness. Sins make you weak and they make you insecure as well. And that brings us to a nice little intro of our topic today. Our topic today is lying and breaking oaths. And interestingly, the author, he puts in one chapter two things together because they go hand in hand. And they come out of the same womb. They are born from the same womb. Lying and breaking oaths go hand in hand. They are both outstanding characteristics of a hypocrite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the Quran many ayahs in regards to lying and many ayahs in regards to sidq, which is the opposite of lying. And we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He categorizes Himself as the most truthful. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. Allah, when He talks about His own self, He characterizes His own self with this phenomenal characteristic of truthfulness. Allah, He says, and who is more truthful in His speech than Allah? Who is more truthful in His speech than Allah? Allah is the most truthful and His speech is the most truthful. So the Quran is a book of truth. The Quran has truth in it, and it's a book of truth, and every single vowel and word and sentence in the Quran is absolute truth, because Allah is the truth. Allahu al-Haq. Allah is the truth, and His Quran is the truth. And His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came with truth. Can you close that door? And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came with truth, he came with sidq, and all the prophets and messengers, they came with truth. It is a characteristic, it is a obligatory characteristic of a prophet and messenger to be truthful and not to lie. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in regards to lying, which is a distasteful characteristic to have, and it's a major sin. Lying is a sin, and we said that every time you sin, you receive something. And inshallah, we are people who are able to receive correlations in understanding. When we do something, we see the effect it has on us. When you look at something haram, there should be an effect on your heart. You feel low. When you hear something haram or listen to something haram, you should see the effect it has on the state of your heart. Anything you do that's haram has an effect on you. So lying is haram. We said lying is haram. Lying is not saying the truth. So it has an effect on you as well. Lying makes you weak. Lying does not make you strong. We see the liar, he's weak when he speaks. And the liar can't look you in the face. The liar always, they have professional psychologists, people who are professional. We have FBI investigators. We have the person that sits with you when he detectives. All these people are professional in weeding out a lie, because when they look the person in the face and they ask them a simple question such as, how did you know Sarah? He's immediately going to do this from work. So you see what I'm saying? It inherits weakness. But the truthful person, if he asks me, how do I know Sarah? I'll say, from work. What do you want from me? Why you call me in? Because you're confident. Confidence is strength. And lying in sin is a weakness. And there's a channel on YouTube I like to always speak about when I speak about this topic, because it's phenomenal. And it gives us examples, current day examples for our life to understand. There's a channel on YouTube called JSC Crime Psychology. This individual, he has about 6 videos that he did, and each video is like 3 years apart. So he takes a lot of time to produce his content, meaning his content is amazing. Each one of his videos has millions of views. And he brings different murder cases that were released to the public. He brings out different murder cases that were released to the public, in which the investigators or the detectives sit down with the individual and they interview him. They ask him questions to get to the root cause of the murder or to find out who the murder is. So every time they call the individual in, he is guilty. He's guilty. So this person that runs this YouTube channel, he does something amazing. He comments on the person's demeanor and the person's responses. He comments. This person that runs this channel, he says, look how he does this and that, a sign of a liar. Non-Muslim, secular video. But what I'm trying to say to you all is, look how the liar has certain characteristics that are attached to him. One of the videos I was watching about a guy that murdered one of his co-workers that he was working with at a place called the Bonefish Grill. The Bonefish Grill is a seafood restaurant. We have Red Lobster, Bonefish Grill. He ended up killing this lady. And by the way, another observation I have from all of these videos that I watch, from this every single murder case that I've seen from this man's YouTube channel, they all go back to one common denominator. Why did they all commit murder? They were having affairs. So doing haram, illicit haram, fahsha, cheating or zina, all of this haram always leads to something worse. So we see the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, He's a Hakim. Allah is al-Hakim. Allah, when He prohibits something, it's for our own good, because nothing bad leads to good. Bad leads to bad. Ibn al-Qayyim, he says in his famous book, Ad-Da' wa Dawa, which is the illness and the cure of the illness. The illness and its cure. الجواب الكافي لمن سأل عن الدواء الشافي. The complete answer, or the sufficient answer to the individual that asked about the medication to a problem. A sufficient answer. This book is a big, thick book like this. He named it The Illness and Its Cure, and it's also known as the sufficient answer to the individual who asked about the proper medication. The sufficient answer to the person who asked about the proper medication. It talks about sins and the effects of sins. It talks about sins and the effects of sins. So what is the medication for a sin? What is the remedy for a sin? The opposite, doing good, istighfar, tawbah, making istighfar, not doing it. And he talks about the effects that sins have. And the Prophet ﷺ speaking about this sin and its effects. So we said sins, of course. The greatest effect of a sin is in the hereafter. It's on your bad deeds. The greatest effect of a sin, the greatest effect is the ukhrawi effect in the hereafter. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you go and you find your scale of bad deeds heavy and you go to Jahannam. That's the main bad effect. But what are effects of sins in this world? That's what we were talking about in the beginning in the little intro, that they have effects on you. Physical, mental. You have someone, he says, I suffer from anxiety and depression. You have someone, he says, I suffer from anxiety and depression. I have nightmares all night, every night. I have anxiety. Then you look at the person's life. You take 1 5-minute glimpse into his life. You say, how do you live your life? He smokes marijuana in the morning. He looks at haram at night. Goes out with haram relationship. Haram, it's haram times 100. So he has haram times 100. How do you expect to have calmness in your heart? How do you expect to have comfort in your heart? How do you expect to have contentment in your heart? How do you expect to have tranquility in your heart when your life is filled with haram times 100? Anxiety and depression is born out of sins. Of course, we're not denying these things. These are all real. But if you look at the majority of these illnesses, if you look at the majority of these mental and emotional illnesses, they all come out of sinning and someone being drowning in sinning. So as I said, this man, this great scholar, Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah alayhi, may Allah have mercy on his soul, he says in his book that doing bad only leads to bad. Bad deeds, they lead to bad deeds. Bad deeds, they lead to bad deeds. And good deeds, they lead to good deeds. And that makes common sense. You think of one example. A good deed is going to the masjid. Going to the masjid leads to 10 good deeds. Going to the masjid leads to wudu. Going to the masjid leads to salat tahiyyat al-masjid. When you enter the masjid, you want to pray the sunnah of the entrance to the masjid. Going to the masjid leads to you giving salam to your Muslim brother, smiling in your Muslim brother's face, making dua after salah, making tasbih after salah, praying the sunnah of after salah, praying the sunnah of before the salah. All of these good deeds come out of what? Just going to the masjid. Going to the masjid leads to when you're leaving, you see your Muslim brother walking, you say, where are you going? He says, oh, I'm walking home. I'll give you a ride. Good deed, good deed. You get 15 good deeds from one visit to the masjid. And the bad deed leads to a bad deed, as he said, and it makes complete sense. The person that goes to the club or the bar, it never ends with a drink. The drink leads to this, and this leads to that, and that leads to Uber, and Uber leads to that, and haram, 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 haram. And what happens when you have all this haram in your life? You end up doing something crazy. What happens when you're enticed in haram? You stop thinking straight. When your life is all haram, you lose the ability to think properly because you're drunk all the time and you're high all the time and you have a headache all the time, and the Motrin and the Tylenol doesn't take care of the headache all the time from the marijuana. It doesn't. You're just depressed all the time. You do crazy stuff when you're under the influence. You do crazy stuff when you're hurt. You do crazy stuff when you don't have guidance, and it leads to something catastrophic called murder. It leads to something huge or crazy like murder. There's no one that wakes up one day, there's no one that wakes up wanting to commit murder. It always comes out of bad mistakes that came before it. And that's why they say that alcohol, al-khaba'ath, the Prophet ﷺ, he said the alcohol, wine, is the mother of all indecencies. It's the mother of all indecencies because of what comes after the alcohol drink. What comes after the cup of wine. Going back to this man, he interviews this one guy that had a coworker at the Bonefish Grill. And he asks him, how did he know Sarah? The interviewer, the detective. He says to the man that committed the murder, and he actually just hid the body 3 days ago off the highway. He dug off the highway, there's open land. He dug the body and he hid it there. So of course, by the way, this is eating this person up. Maybe he didn't sleep for a week because he's every day, he's shaking in bed thinking, what if they find the body? What if they find the body? What if they find the body? He's guilty. Guilt, it brings you down. It's heavy. Guilt from something small is heavy. Guilt when you lie to your mother in the morning when you're leaving to go to work is heavy. So imagine the guilt of killing a human being that you strangled after you raped her. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. Guilt is really heavy. So he's been fighting this guilt and he wants to play it off. He's asked a simple question. The innocent individual that's not guilty, that's called out of work on a day where he's working to answer a detective's questions. First of all, the innocent person, he would not want to go answer questions. The detective will say, do you mind coming to answer some questions for us? You're going to say, no, I don't want to answer questions. What? Why do you want from me? Because your confidence is coming out. The guilty person says, of course, yes, I'll answer anything you want. Of course. What do you need? Because you're trying to build a portfolio. You're trying to make yourself seem like a good guy. Oh, look, he's so good. He wants to help us. Oh, the innocent person doesn't try to act good because he's innocent. His innocence is strength. His confidence is, he's just beaming with confidence. He's like, no, I don't want to answer your questions. I didn't do nothing. No, but the guilty person always, first sign of guilt, of course, officer, I'd love to come answer your questions. Yes, officer, yes. Yes. Trying to act good and innocent and nice and cooperative. And then when you lie so much, it adds up so much that you have to continuously backtrack. So instead of one, it's not one lie, of course, it's 10, 15 lies. It's 15 lies. And he's probably thinking about the blood that hit his shirt, and he's thinking about where his shirt is. He's so scared. It's like 15 lies he has to cover up, and it's like so much mental stress. And the guy goes and he starts off the question and answer. He goes, so, how you doing? Good. How do you know Sarah? And the guy that does this channel, it was hilarious. I'll never forget when I watched this the first time. He goes, he makes it quiet, he mutes it, and he puts it in times 10. And he starts talking. He goes, look how many minutes he goes. He answers the simplest question, how do you know Sarah? The innocent person from work. What does he say? Well, I got to know Sarah 10 years ago when we first started working at the Bonefish Grill. Then we became friends. Then I took her 46 minutes. Because he's building a portfolio trying to make himself seem innocent. This is just an example for me to show you all that the lying person, he's weak. He has no confidence. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us, like we said in the beginning of the class, many ahadith in regards to lying. One of them that stands out, that's phenomenal, that's beautiful, that's so eloquent and beautiful, is this famous hadith that I'm going to read to you all now. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الصدق يهدي إلى البر وإن البر يهدي إلى الجنة وإن الرجل ليصدق ويتحرى الصدق حتى يكتب عند الله صديقا وإن الكذب يهدي إلى الفجور وإن الفجور يهدي إلى النار وإن الرجل ليكذب ويتحرى الكذب حتى يكتب عند الله كذابا. So many times the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says things in a hadith that seem very clear because it's so easy to understand, but it's very deep and dense in meaning. Sometimes you have to stop and think about what you just read because it's very deep and dense in meaning. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says in regards to sidq, which is truthfulness, and in regards to lying, which is kadhib, he says indeed sidq yahdi ila al-birri, indeed being truthfulness, it leads to something ultimately. As we said, Ibn al-Qayyim says good deeds lead to good deeds and bad deeds lead to bad deeds. He says in sidq yahdi guides to, being truthful guides to al-birri. Bir, we read in Salat al-Isha in the second rak'ah, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم. Bir is a general word in the Arabic language for anything good. Good pious acts. We say بر الوالدين. وقضى ربك أن لا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. بر الوالدين is, we translate it in English as being good to your parents or being dutiful to your parents. Bir is a general good act. Smiling in someone's face is sadaqah, right? That's a good act, that's bir. Going to the masjid is a good act, that's bir. Bir is general good. The Prophet, he says something phenomenal. He says truthfulness, like being a person of truth, speaking truth, not lying, being honest, honesty. Honesty leads to good, anything good, all good. وَإِنَّ الْبِرَّ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And good, general good, leads to Jannah, leads to paradise. Bro, this is so simple. You're truthful and you're honest and you're sincere. That's what sidq is. You have sidq in your heart. Sidq means to believe, firm, true belief, strong sincerity in your heart. It resonates and it comes and it becomes magnified on your tongue. Your tongue follows your heart, then your bodily actions and your limbs follow your tongue. It's like an easy equation. Your heart is truthful, sidq, sincerity in your heart. It comes and it transcends onto your tongue, and your tongue is a tongue of truth, lisana sidqin, right? Then it comes and it transcends to your actions, and you start doing good actions. What happens when you do good actions? It leads to Jannah. It's so simple, because when you do good and you have good here, it leads to Jannah. You see it. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. And whomsoever does an atom's weight of good, he'll find it. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. Allah, he says, anything you do of good, Allah is aware of it. Allah is aware of it. Whatever you do of good, indeed Allah has all knowledge over it. Alright? So, being truthful leads to good, good leads to Jannah. وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لِيَصْدُقُ وَيَتَحَرَّ الصِّدْقَ. And indeed the individual, he continuously practices honesty and truthfulness. He's always honest and truthful. And then he says, وَيَتَحَرَّى الصِّدْقِ وَيَتَحَرَّى الصِّدْقِ. He goes out of his way to exert effort to being truthful. Meaning that he's constantly thinking of being honest. Meaning that his state of being is a state of honesty. وَيَتَحَرَّى الصِّدْقِ. You make a cognizant exertion of effort to be honest. Until what happens? What is the outcome of the person that constantly tries to be honest and he's constantly trying to be honest? What is the outcome? Until he's written in the book of Allah as a Siddiq. We say Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu always. We say Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Abu Bakr had a nickname. His nickname was as-Siddiq. Sayyidina Umar had a nickname, it was al-Faruq. Alright? Sayyidina Abu Bakr's nickname was the honest one, or the one who is truthful, or the one who believes, deep belief, strong belief, immediate belief. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq has a high status in Islam. And he passed away on his bed. He passed away on his bed. But he's a Siddiq. Yeah? فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Allah, He says in Surah An-Nisa, that indeed those are with those who Allah has bestowed goodness to from the messengers of God, the prophets, and the Siddiqeen and the Shuhada. Allah, He mentions the Siddiqeen before the prophets, meaning it's a high status. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he talks about the flip side. So we have an honest individual. All he does is honesty, all he speaks is the truth, and he's constantly exerting effort to be a person of truth. Daily interactions, he's thinking, I want to be truthful, I don't want to lie. That's what it means to taharra as-sidq. Your mind is being busy with being truthful. It's a beautiful thing, by the way, because your state is truthfulness. Then he says, وَإِنَّ الْكَذِبَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْفُجُورِ. On the flip side, the Prophet, he gives an analogy. He goes, and indeed lying, it leads to fujur. Fujur is bad acts. Fujur is bad acts. وَإِنَّ الْفُجُورَ يَهْدِي إِلَى النَّارِ. And then what happens when you commit bad acts? Bad acts, they lead to nar, they lead to Jahannam. وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَكْذِبُ وَيَتَحَرَّى الْكَذِبَ حَتَّى يُكْتَبَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كِذَابًا. And indeed the individual will constantly lie. وَيَتَحَرَّى الْكَذِبَ. And he'll go out of his way to lie. He's just a liar. Everything he says is a lie. His state is a state of lie. Everything is lie. He can't say the truth. You ask him a simple question, he has to lie for nothing. You ever seen someone, they lie for nothing? I get confused sometimes. The individual, he lies for absolutely nothing. And I'm thinking, why does he have to lie about something so minuscule, so minute? Why are you lying about something so small, my brother? It's because the heart has been damaged. He's long but not forgotten. The heart is hurt, the heart is gone. Like you have to lie for everything because you're too deep in the disease. So indeed the individual, he will lie until he's written in the book of Allah as a liar. This is something very scary, my dear brothers and sisters, because we learn something deep from this hadith, and that's that you're going to be written in the book of Allah as something. Of course, we're all going to be written in the book of Allah as something. The book of Allah is what we're going to be known to Allah for. You have someone, he's known to Allah for being a truthful individual because all he does is speak the truth, and you have someone on the flip side that's known to Allah as a liar because all he does is lie. Then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he says in another hadith that I love dearly, ثلاث من كن فيه فهو منافق وإن صام وصلى وزعم أنه مسلم إذا حدث كذب وإذا وعد أخلف وإذا اؤتمن خان. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in a beautiful hadith, he says there's three characteristics that if you find them in someone, then he's a hypocrite. Even if he prays and he fasts and he claims to be a Muslim. This is so powerful because we learn that bodily actions such as fasting and prayer, of course they're important, they're the most important. But if your heart contradicts your actions, it says something about you. If your heart and your tongue contradicts your actions, it says something about you. It's called hypocrisy. It's called being a hypocrite. So the Prophet Muhammad, he said these three characteristics, if they're in someone, then he is a hypocrite, even if he prays and he fasts. You have many people, they come to the masjid, they pray 5 times a day in the masjid, they go out and they lie and they cheat and they steal. It's ajib. You have someone, he lies and he cheats and he steals and he fasts. The Prophet said this person, if he has these characteristics, he's a hypocrite, even if he prays and fasts. The prayer and the fasting should have an effect on your heart. If the prayer and fasting is not affecting your heart, there's a big problem. So what are these three things? He says, if he speaks, he lies. And if he gives an appointment or a word, he goes against his word or appointment. And if he's giving an amana, if he's giving a trust, he breaks his trust. These three characteristics, they all come from the same denominator. Lying breaking a trust and breaking your word. Going against your word, breaking a trust, and lying, they all come from the same root cause. The root cause is lack of iman. Being a hypocrite, having hypocrisy to you. How is it that someone gives you something and he tells you to watch over it and you feel nothing about it? This is lack of amana. Your amana is weak. You have no amana to you. How do you gain your word? How do you make your word strong? How do you become known as someone who has a strong word? By keeping your word, by speaking the truth, by holding on to your appointments. Do you think it's convenient for everyone to hold on to an appointment? Do you know how many times in my life I want to cancel an appointment? How many times in my life I want to cancel an appointment? I say, no, I can't. I gave the brother my word. Your word is a big thing. It's a big deal. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was known as something to his people before he became a prophet and messenger of God. As-Sadiq al-Amin. The trustworthy, truthful. The truthful, trustworthy person. How did he receive this recognition and these characteristics amongst his people before Islam, before he became a prophet of God? How was he known to everyone as a Sadiq al-Amin, the truthful, trustworthy person? Because he was truthful in his speech. They never saw him lie. And because he was trustworthy, anytime he was ever given a trust, he never broke a trust or his word. So we have to really be aware of our interactions. Your interactions in the state of your heart and your character and your ethics speak volumes about your iman. Because prayer is something that anybody could do. قيل لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أيكون المؤمن جبانا قال نعم قيل له أيكون المؤمن بخيلا فقال نعم فقيل له أيكون المؤمن كذابا فقال لا. There's a famous hadith, another beautiful hadith talking about the liar. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was asked, can the believer be a coward? You know, Jaban, can the believer be a coward? He responded, yes, he could. And he was asked, can the believer be cheap? Can he be cheap with his money? He said, yes, he could. And then he was asked a third thing. He said, can the believer be a liar? He goes, no, he cannot. And another hadith similar to this hadith, he's asked, can the mu'min yazni? Can the mu'min fall into zina? He said, قد يكون من ذلك. He's asked, can the mu'min steal? Can the mu'min commit theft? He said, قد يكون من ذلك. Can the mu'min lie? And he said, لا. And then he said, إنما يفتري الكذب الذين لا يؤمنون. The Prophet ﷺ, after he says no 3 times to these 3 things, he says that indeed the individual that dares to lie, or lying comes off his tongue, is the individual that does not believe. Why is that? Because lying goes against belief in the heart. Sidq, we said sidq is being honest. Sidq is trustworthiness. Sidq is being truthful on your tongue. This truthfulness of your tongue, it's a reflection of your inner state. It means that you have truthfulness in your heart, meaning you have deep belief in your heart. We say that we have to say the kalima, La ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I bear witness and testify that there's no deity worthy of worship, worthy of God, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger. This is called tasdeeq. This iman in your heart that you proclaim with your tongue, it's tasdeequ fil qalbi. It's strong, firm belief in your heart. You guys got that? This iman in your heart is tasdeeq. The opposite is takdeeb, to disbelieve. It comes from kadhib. Lying in disbelief. You say he's a disbeliever. الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Those who disbelieve in the day of judgment. Those who disbelieve. The word kadhib and disbelief is the same thing, because kadhib is a form of disbelief. You guys get this? Like lying and disbelief, they come from the same area in the heart. The mu'min can't be a disbeliever. So it's like me saying, can a mu'min be a non-Muslim? The Prophet said, no, the Muslim cannot be a non-Muslim. هَلَ الْمُؤْمِنُ يَكْذِبُ لَا. Indeed, those who dare to lie are those who do not believe. And this is just to signify and highlight that lying is a it's very opposite to belief. It's very opposite to sincere iman and sidq. So now, there are certain scenarios where an individual can lie. After all of that, we say you could lie. Of course, Islam is a logical religion. Islam is a very logical religion. If someone is going to come and threaten my life, and I have to lie to survive, is Allah going to tell me, why did you lie, Habibi? Come on, bro. Common sense. You have common sense? Allah granted us aql, right? If I'm going to die, and the only way I can protect myself from death, halak, is for me to lie to get out of a scenario with a mujrim, with a criminal. Do I say the truth to him? No, brother, you lie, and you save your life. If you're in a desert, and you have nothing to eat, and there's a warthog that passes by, and you're going to die from hunger, do you just die? You say, oh, I'm a Muslim, I don't eat pig. No, brother, you go and you barbecue the pig, and you eat. You eat so you do not die. This is what happens when you have a brain and logic. Allah granted you a brain and logic. This is something called a dire necessity. I'm not telling you to eat pig here. Astaghfirullah azim. Haram. Pig is haram in the Quran, my brother. If you're gonna die and the last thing you have left is the warthog and that abandoned island after you fell off the plane with that guy, what's his name? Wilson? What's his name? Tom Hanks, what's his name? Huh? Castaway. You guys saw the movie Castaway? He was eating shrimp. So, shrimp and fish. How are you gonna eat pig on an island with this fish, brother? All jokes aside, in a dire scenario, things become lawful that were not lawful. So if the only thing on earth left is a dead carcass or a pig, which is usually haram, you eat it. You eat what's enough to keep yourself alive. Keeping yourself alive is an obligation. So of course, logically speaking, that means that lying will be permitted in certain cases from the brain. Before we even say the Prophet in his hadith, before we mention the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith that we're going to read, I want logic, like from your brain. Like if someone's going to rob you and he says, "Where's your money?" You want me to tell him where my money is? I'm going to say, "Brother, I have no money." You say, "Brother, you're Muslim, how'd you lie?" Do you see? I want common sense. You guys get it? Yeah, I'm not saying to lie about everything. I'm not saying you lie every day. No, you don't lie. The mu'min never lies. Lying is not iman. But the mu'min is also qayyis and fatin. The mu'min, the Prophet ﷺ, he's smart. The mu'min qayyis, the mu'min is smart. He's not a fool. Come on, bro. Like the mu'min is supposed to be smart. The anbiya, it's an obligation for all of them to have fatana. They're all smart. The prophets and messengers of God, they're all smart. They know what to say and when to say it. So I'm happy that we have logic. Because first, logically speaking, if someone puts a gun to my head and says, "Where's your money?" Of course, if he has a gun, you protect your life. But I'm just saying, if lying will be permitted to save your money and to save your life. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, قالت Kulthum has a hadith on the Prophet ﷺ, ليس الكذاب الذي يصلح بين الناس فيقول خيرا أو ينمي خيرا. قالت ولم أسمعه يرخص في شيء مما يقول الناس من الكذب إلا في ثلاث: الإصلاح بين الناس، وحديث الرجل امرأته، وحديث امرأة زوجها. And the other one is وفي الحرب. Maybe I pasted it wrong. And at war. Anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ, he said that it is not the one who arbitrates between people and fixes problems or mends problems between individuals is not considered a liar. The one who goes around saying good things to others, or he goes and he whispers to this guy's ear and he goes to that guy's ear and he whispers for a good reason, al-islahu bayn al-nas, reconciliation, to reconcile between two people, to arbitrate between two people, to fix a problem, is not considered a liar. Meaning that, I'm going to give a good example. I'm going to use generic names. We have Mahmoud and Ahmed. I go to Ahmed. Him and Mahmoud got in a fight last week. I waited 1 week because I have some wisdom. I know that you have to let it, 7 days sleep, 20, how many hours is that? You got to, now the second day you go and say something good, he's going to say, "Get out of my face, you're a liar." You and Ahmed are both liars. You give it some time to settle. That when the dust settles, you go up to Ahmed. You say, "Ahmed, Habibi, I was with Mahmoud the other day in the cafeteria. And man, he was saying good things about you, this, that, and he's going to act hard. He's going to be like, he's going to ignore you, he's going to continue eating, but he's going to listen. His heart is going to become a little soft." Did Mahmoud necessarily say anything? No, maybe Mahmoud is saying the opposite. He's saying, "I'll never talk to him again." It's all good. In this case, you're good. You got jaiz from the Prophet ﷺ, jawaz, So then you go to Mahmoud and you have to butter him up as well. He said, "I was with Ahmed in the cafeteria and he was saying good things. I don't know why you guys got in that fight. It's all good. We're human beings. We make mistakes." You be a little nice. So in order to reconcile between two people, you're allowed to lie. Because here, it's lying for a good cause. It's lying for something good. It's for khair. It's for khair. And of course, one of the worst things that can happen is two brothers having an issue. But this happens because we're human beings. And it happens very often. So the person that does this, he's not an imam. He's the opposite of an imam. An imam, hammaz masha'in binamim, wailun likulli hummazatil lumazah. The imam, we spoke about it in detail. The one who slanders, the one who goes and he wants, his intention is to cause friction and fasad. We have someone, his heart is diseased. His intention is to cause problems. So he goes up to Faris and he says, "Hey Faris, Muhammad said that you're this, that, and then Faris becomes outraged. And Muhammad never said nothing. Muhammad said, "I love Faris, he's my friend. We go out to McDonald's every day and we have a good time." We don't go to McDonald's, we boycott McDonald's. Write that down. We don't go to McDonald's, we boycott McDonald's. We go out to Halalco. We go to Halalco every day, brother. So slander is evil. Slander is the opposite of islah bayn al-nas. Slander is the opposite. It's you lying to cause a problem. It's you lying to make fasad. It's you lying to make friction. The opposite of that is here. You're lying to do good. So lying becomes allowed. And the other allowance that the Prophet ﷺ gave was the man to his wife and the wife to his man. The man tells his wife, my darling, you are the most beautiful woman on earth. Is his wife the most beautiful woman on earth? That's impossible. His wife is not the most beautiful woman in the city. The fish are many in the ocean, bro. But he says it out of goodness because he wants to make good feelings, you know? And she says, Habibi, you're the most handsome man on earth. Is he? He goes, my dear beloved, your food is the best. And he's eating the food and he's making dua to finish the plate. Because, Ya Allah, grant me strength to finish the plate. He goes, I've been married 5 years, she can't get it right. What is this? And he goes, Alhamdulillah. He says, Alhamdulillah, because he's a mu'min. He thinks of all the good. So it's not considered lying when you're doing something good. When it's a good intention. You go over someone's house, it goes under the same category. You're invited to someone's house and they prepare you a feast. They've been cooking for 12 hours. You get there, you take a bite, you're going to throw up. You don't like it at all. How's the food? You say, Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair, Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. And you try not to make eye contact. This is all for khair. This is all for khair. There's no ill intention here, my brother. Your intention is to protect the person's embarrassment. Your intention is to make good ties and bonds. First example is that two individuals that have an issue and you go and you're a good person and your heart is very clean and you want nothing but good for the ummah. You're clean. So you want to make amends with people. You want people to reconcile between each other. There's no issue with that. The man wants to keep a good, strong bond with his wife. His wife is tired. She bore him 3 kids. Her cooking went down 5 years ago. He doesn't know what happened. He said, Habibti, your food is the best. And she goes, you always say that. He goes, it's the truth. What can I say? It's amazing. You know, good words that uplift. Going to someone's house, they invite you over, they're talking about the invitation for 2 weeks. You take one bite and you're shocked. You make dua to finish the plate. There's no problem with that. And the last thing, of course, is the Prophet, he says in the hadith, is lying is allowed and it's halal when you're at war. Because I don't think any person with the brain is going to go tell the enemy we're going to attack tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Be ready. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So lying is allowed at war as well. And the author, he said something interesting. But I was going to say anyway, like I said it naturally, but he also mentions, and I wrote it down. Based on this, we see that lying is permissible in similar circumstances to the 3 specific circumstances that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. Reconciling between 2 people that have an issue, this is khair. Anything that is khair, the woman lying to her husband and the man lying to his wife, saying you're the most beautiful woman on earth. And at war, of course, you're not going to speak the truth to the enemy. You're going to lie to the enemy day and night. You're going to say we're attacking tomorrow, and you don't attack tomorrow. You attack at night. This lying is for winning the war. So he says, based on what we have seen from the Prophet ﷺ, lying is permissible in certain circumstances. If someone asks you where your money is so they could rob you, you don't tell them my money is in my car in my glove compartment. You say, I don't have no money, brother. What are you talking about money? This is a lie, brother. Lying is check here. Good. Lying is fard here. You're going to get robbed. The mu'min is going to get robbed. To protect yourself or your livelihood, as we mentioned already. And if you are asked about a grave sin, interesting. If you are asked about a grave sin that you have committed, that is known only to you and Allah. If you are asked about a sin that no one knows about, meaning that it doesn't infringe on the boundaries of someone else, meaning that you don't have to mention the sin. Because if you committed a sin and you outstretch the boundary of someone else or you oppress someone else, then it's befitting for you to mention it so you could resolve the oppression that you did to someone. However, there's many sins that we commit that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about. Because Allah, He knows everything. He's Allam al-Ghuyub. Allah knows sirra wal-akhfa. Ya'lam al-sirra wal-akhfa. Allah, He says about Himself in Surah Taha, an interesting ayah. He says that He knows the secret, wa-akhfa. As-sir is the secret, and He knows wa-akhfa. He knows the secret, and that is that which is concealed more than a secret. It's called a secret squared. The secret squared means the secret, that we all have secrets, and then the dirty little secret. Everything in the world. Allah knows everything. Allah knows what you're thinking. Allah knows what's in your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's all aware of everything in the world. So sometimes we commit sins, and only Allah knows about them, because Allah knows everything. Is it befitting for you to say the sin to someone? No, it's okay to lie here. Someone says, did you ever drink alcohol? You say, no, brother, alhamdulillah, I did not. But you drink alcohol many times in the past. But you repented, my brother. There's no need for you to conceal those sins. Then there's an important point to mention here, and that's that if Allah concealed your sins, one person that is not forgiven by Allah, his tawbah is not accepted, is al-mujahir, al-mujahirun, those who publicize their sins. Allah covered him. Allah covered him. He granted him sitra. Allah covered this individual. At night he went and he did haram. And the next day he goes to the barbershop. He goes, Alhamdulillah, I did this and that and that and this. Brother, what are you doing, brother? Brother, you're not going to get, except no tawbah for you, brother. Your tawbah is negated. How do you not feel bad in your heart? How are you not crying yourself to sleep? Al-Mujahirun, they're not forgiven by Allah. The one who commits a grave sin and he talks and he flaunts about it. So, of course, it's from common sense, if you're trying to conceal yourself and someone asks you, if someone asks you about a sin that you committed in the past that no one knows about, you say, no, I did not commit that sin. Lying is permissible here. Interestingly here, when someone comes and asks for your hand in marriage, and that person asks if you have a past, or he asks a certain question that you do not want to conceal because you want to protect your sin, the scholars, they say that you tell that person that you did not do so and then you end it. This relationship, you end it. You don't continue with this person. They say that you do not conceal. You do not tell of what you have done. You hide your sin. But then you end this sitting, or you end this individual that's coming to see you in a smart, wise way. So if you are asked about a grave sin that you have committed in the past, that's between you and Allah, you don't mention it and you're allowed to lie. And then of course publicizing transgressions is a transgression in itself, as we said. You flaunting or boasting about haram is haram in itself. May Allah protect us. You know, right now we live in a crazy timing. Back then people used to be very embarrassed from getting caught doing things. Now people, they go and they tell people, or they live stream when they do haram. So not only is it going to come on Yawm al-Qiyamah and it's going to embarrass you, but you're also embarrassed in this dunya. If you are asked about a secret that you share with another brother and exposing, you want to on the wall? You good? Sorry. If you are asked about a secret that you share with a brother and exposing the secret would damage his reputation, then it is permissible to deny this and call it a rumor, to deny the rumor. If you are asked about a secret that you keep between you and a brother, you want to keep that secret in that trust. This brother, he told you a secret, possibly because he wanted you to help him with this issue that he's going through. There's someone, he counsels someone. There's someone that you turn to, because sometimes you need to turn to someone for help. Sometimes you're overtaken or overcome by sin, and you need to turn to someone for help. You need to seek out professional help. Most of the times, the first person you go to is the imam of the masjid, or a close pious friend that you know from the masjid. And you open up to him about a sin, not to flaunt, not to boast, but to get help, to seek help. And you said, this is an amana, this is between me and you. And you cry, you say, I committed this sin, I need help. So over here he says it's permissible for that brother to lie, to cover your reputation, because it's an amana. So it is permissible to lie, to deny the rumor as a lie. Then the author, he moves on to the next section of this chapter, which is breaking promises. We said that breaking promises is born out of the same womb as lying. Lying, breaking promises, and going against your trust, they all come from the same rahim. They all come out of the same womb. Lying is a sign of nifaq. Breaking a promise is a sign of nifaq. And not having any type of amana or trust is a sign of nifaq. Fulfilling promises is an obligation in Islam. Fulfilling promises is an obligation in Islam, which means that you will be rewarded for doing it. If we say something is an obligation, if I say that praying dhuhr is an obligation, it means it's very rewarding. If we say something is prohibited or haram, it means it's very sinful. Guys, if something's an obligation, it means it's rewarding. And if something is haram, it's a prohibition, it's very sinful. He says, fulfilling promises is an obligation in Islam, which means that you will be rewarded for doing it and punished for violating it. Meaning that going against your promise or going against your trust is sinful. Meaning that when you speak the truth, reward. You're commanded to speak the truth. Speaking the truth, being honest, command from God, rewarded for being honest. Great characteristic for being honest. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the most honest. The Quran is the truth. Allah is the truth. His prophets and messengers are all truth. They all came with truth. Great characteristics, noble characteristics. The Muslim doesn't lie. The mu'min could be cheap. He could be a coward. He could fall into zina. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. As the Prophet said, all these things are possible. But lying is not possible for a believer. Lying is not possible for a mu'min. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He starts off the fifth surah of the Quran, known as Surah Al-Ma'idah, the table spread or the tablecloth. And Surah Al-Ma'idah is a very beautiful surah. It has a lot of laws and regulations in it. It has a lot of ayahs that begin with Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who have believed. Because Surah Al-Ma'idah is a Madani surah. We spoke about this many times. We said that the Madani surah is the surah that was revealed in the Madani period, meaning post-Hijrah. And the Meccan surah was the surah revealed pre-Hijrah, yani in the Meccan period. There are two different distinctive periods. We said the Meccan period was the period of da'wah, and it was the period of iman, building iman. Prophet stories in the Quran, Surah Yusuf, Surah Yunus, Surah Hud, Surah Al-An'am, all the last surahs of the Quran, beautiful surahs, rhythmic surahs, surahs that have to do with aqidah, surahs that have to do with stories of the prophets and messengers. Meccan surah, Meccan surah, Meccan surah, Meccan surah, to build iman, to make you fall in love with the religion. Once your iman is strong, once the iman is rasikh, once the iman is firm, we move on to the Madini period. When they established the Khilafah in Medina, there's an Islamic empire, there's an Islamic state. Now laws and regulations start coming down. Boom, 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 boom. Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Tawbah, Madani surahs, laws and regulations, because the iman is strong. If God commanded the Muslims to leave off wine in the second year of the Bi'athah, no one would have done it. Like, who would have done it? If Allah commanded the Muslims or the Muslim woman to wear hijab immediately, many people would not have fulfilled these commands. But these commands come down. Allah is Hakimun Alim. Allah is the most wise, the most knowledgeable. All of these commands come down in the Madini period. And what happens? What is the conclusion? Immediate answer. Immediate istijabah. Immediate response. No alcohol. They take the alcohol, they throw it on the streets of the Medina. They said there was a river of wine. The day that wine was ultimately prohibited, there was a river of wine in Medina because they threw out all their wine. You know, wine is very expensive. There's different forms of wine. They don't care about that. They care about their religion. They love Allah. The love of Allah was firm. The ayah of hijab comes down, immediate response. The woman threw on jilbabs and hijab and khimar, right? So this is a beautiful surah. Surah Al-Ma'idah is beautiful. It's called the tablecloth or the table spread because at the end of the surah, in the last 2 pages, we find something very interesting. We find a story of Isa alayhi salam and his Hawariyeen. We find a story of Isa alayhi salam and his disciples. That's mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah, where his disciples or his companions asked him for a sign from God, a miracle from God. They said, let your God send down a table cloth or a massive banquet. تَكُونُ لَنَا عِيدًا لِأَوَّلِنَا وَآخِرِنَا وَآيَةً مِنْكَ. They said, let your Lord, let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send down this massive banquet table spread. We call it Da Vinci, right? Last Supper, you ever seen the picture? It's in the Quran too, Last Supper. Send down a table spread. It will be a festival for us, تَكُونُ لَنَا عِيدًا, for the first of us and the last of us, and it will be a sign from God, a miracle for you. So he says, no problem, I'm going to ask God to do this. Isa alayhi salam said, I'm going to ask God to do this. And if any of you disbelieve after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment is severe. Meaning that, come on, like after you see the miracle and the banquet hall comes down from the sky, you're going to disbelieve still? Khalas. Whoever disbelieves after this, know for a fact that Allah will punish him a severe punishment. But these 2 pages of this story come at the very end of a long surah, which is all laws and regulations. All laws and regulations. The first ayah of the surah is beautiful. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil uqudi. Allah, He starts off, O you who have believed, awfu bil uqud. Awfu bil uqud. Fulfill your vows, fulfill your covenants. Stick with your word. Al wafa. Awfu. Wafa. To fulfill. To fulfill your uqud. Uqud is a transaction, or fulfill your covenants. Any covenant you take, it's not light. That's what it means. It's not light. And the promise of the Muslim should be dependable. As we said 10 times now, your word means a lot. In order to strengthen your word, you have to be truthful. In order to strengthen your word, your reputation, what you're known for, you don't go against your word. And we said that in today's society, in Western society, someone makes a word, he gives someone a word, he goes against it like you know, water. We have Zamzam. For whoever didn't get Zamzam, inshallah, after the class we have Zamzam. The sister, she went to Umrah. So now, in today's society, breaking your word, going against your word. I set an appointment with Brother Yunus at 5 p.m. 4:30 comes, I'm feeling tired. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm just going to tell him I couldn't make it. What? You're tired? You're a Muslim, my brother. I'm tired every day of my life. The Muslim, we're tired every day. The whole world is tired. What do you mean you're tired? You get up and go. You keep your word. Tired? Huh? If you're dying in bed and you can't make it and you feel very sick, no problem, call Brother Yunus. Brother Yunus, wallah, I'm very sick, I'm very sorry, I know we had an appointment for 5 p.m. You have someone, he has nothing, he has no iman here, his conscience is dead. You have someone, he calls you, he goes, where are you, brother? We have an appointment at 5. He goes, yeah, I'm going to be there in a minute, and he's 4 hours away. What? No, man, the Muslim is known for his word. In order for you to receive a reputation, in order for your reputation to become strong, in order for you to have a word and a value to what you say, you have to stick to your word. The Muslim, he is a person of appointments. The Muslim, he goes on time to obligations or to invitations. You're invited to go somewhere at 6, you go at 6, you don't go at 6:45. But no, I know culture speaks different. I'm not talking about Iman and Islam, I'm talking about culture. Culturally speaking, at 6 o'clock, you say, no, brother, how can you go at 6 o'clock? Well, like, everyone's going to think we're losers. We got to go 6:45 minimum. You sit at home watching Family Feud for 40 minutes. You're like, let's go now. Now we go and they're going to think we're busy. No, man, you're a loser, man. Go on time. Go on time, and you go on time. The problem is, don't now haram. You go on time, it's like, what's wrong with this guy? You're on time, you good? You just sit there for 1 hour for the first person to walk in. He walks in like he's lost. He made a left at the gas station, he didn't know where he was going. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said in regards to keeping your word, he said, another hadith in terms of hypocrisy, أربع من كن فيه كان منافقا خالصا من كانت فيه خصلة منهن كانت فيه خصلة من النفاق حتى يدعها إذا اؤتمن خان وإذا حدث كذب وإذا عاهد غدر وإذا خاصم فجر. The Prophet ﷺ, he said these are 4 characteristics that whomsoever embodied all 4, whomsoever carried out all 4, whomsoever had all 4 of these characteristics, the Prophet said, كان منافقا خالصا. He said he was a true munafiq, 10 out of 10, hypocrite. Check off, hypocrite. You have all 4 of these, you're a hypocrite. You have all 4 of these, don't talk to me, you're a hypocrite. All 4, bro? You had 4 opportunities, you failed on every single one? The Prophet said the person with all 4 of these, he's a hypocrite. وَمَنْ كَانَتْ فِيهِ خِصْلَةٌ مِّنْهُنَّ كَانَتْ فِيهِ خِصْلَةٌ مِّنَ النِّفَاقِ. And whomsoever has one of the 4, or 2 of the 4, he has a bit of hypocrisy to him. Yani he has taints of hypocrisy. He has hypocrisy to him. Meaning that all 4 of these things that we're going to mention are very severe. The person of Iman and belief should not have any of these. If he sees himself having any of these, he should rid himself from them and purify himself from them. So then he goes on and he says, if he speaks, he lies. If he promises, he breaks his promise. If he gives an oath, he betrays it. And if he quarrels, he is abusive. I'm going to translate it to normal English. If he breaks, he lies. If he speaks, he lies. We talked in the first hadith about the person who's honest and truthful and all he knows how to do is speak the truth. And on the flip side is the liar. All he knows how to do is lie. Guys, lying is very unattractive. It smells really bad. We talked about arrogance. We talked about showing off and insincerity. We characterize them as off-putting and they smell bad. They're distasteful. Because sins, they smell bad. Sins, they smell bad. Lying smells the worst. Lying, you cannot be around someone who lies because you no longer trust the person. You catch someone lying in 5 minutes of you meeting him and you no longer can trust him. Lying ultimately is a sign of extreme weakness because the person of strength does not have to lie. The person who is strong, he doesn't have to lie. So lying tells me that you're weak because you're scared. So if he speaks, he lies. If he promises, he breaks his promise. We said that the breaking promises is haram. Fulfilling an oath and fulfilling a promise is an obligation. If you promise someone to do something, you have to uphold it. Of course, if something happens to you in life, we're not talking about other scenarios where, something happened, it came up and I couldn't. No, we're saying generally speaking, you make a promise, you have to keep it. And if he gives an oath, he betrays it. Giving oaths is not something light. Giving an oath, betraying an oath is not something light. And if he quarrels, he is abusive. If he gets in a fight, وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجْرًا. If he gets in an argument or a fight, he explodes. He explodes. You have someone, you can't approach him to speak to him about something because the second you approach him, he explodes. He's a detonation, he's a bomb. What's it called, the IED? He's an IED. You know what IED is? What's it stand for, Junaid? Huh? It's an explosive device hidden in the ground. The brother, you want to approach him to tell him something and he, what does it stand for? You know what? Huh? No? Huh? Improvised explosive device. You have a brother, he's in an improvised explosive device. It's not a good sign for someone to be unapproachable and not easy to talk to, especially if there's an issue. You know what's a sign of Iman? A sign of Iman is disagreeing with someone or approaching someone with a disagreement, and that person not becoming arrogant and loud and abusive. That person accepting the criticism. By the way, not every time someone comes to give you advice, that person is right. Not every time. No, but the mu'min has Iman in his heart, he's humble. He takes advice. We take constructive criticism. You can't be someone who's not criticized. You're a human being. If a brother comes, of course we spoke about this a couple of classes ago. There's the intention behind the person coming, of course. Sometimes someone has a good intention and he really has khair. But you could tell, you have social awareness, you could tell within 5 seconds where he's coming from. If a person comes to give you advice, there's nothing wrong with advice, we accept advice. But there's a certain adab and etiquette. If someone is giving a public class, and then someone wants to show himself up because he wants to show that he knows something, because he knows Arabic maybe, or because he knows something, so he has to correct the teacher in front of everyone, this is very rude. This is not from adab. You could talk to the teacher after and say, oh, you made a mistake, by the way, you said something, it wasn't, I think this, that, and you could share that with the person. You don't have to say it in front of 15 people, because you're going to get everyone to doubt the person that's speaking, and it's going to lose credibility for the individual speaking. No, it's not from adab at all. You have some respect, Sometimes people, they want to show up, like oh, I know something. So they're dying to always saying something. They can't listen good, they have to listen with a critique all the time. That's not a good place. You can be a good person. We want good for everyone. Inshallah, you could teach a class soon as well. You go study and we all study, inshallah, we always learn something new every day. No one is free from imperfection. Everyone has problems. Everyone makes mistakes. We're all human beings. But someone should be sincere when he gives advice. And so, of course, the person listening to the advice should be sincere when he receives it as well. He should hear it out. So, going crazy in an argument is a very bad sign. You have someone, she screams and kicks and yells and throws the pots and pans and breaks everything. It's not a good sign. If you are confronted by some unforeseen obstacle that prevents you from fulfilling a promise, he states the obvious. If you are confronted by some unforeseen obstacle that prevents you from fulfilling a promise, then breaking it would not be considered a sign of hypocrisy. Yani if something comes up in life and you can no longer fulfill the promise that you made, it's okay. Ultimately, keeping promises is a part of loyalty, and loyalty is a part of Islam. Loyalty is Islam. Wafa is all Islam. Islam is loyalty to Allah, and Islam is loyalty to His Messenger. Islam is performing obligations, which is loyalty to Allah. Staying away from prohibitions, which is loyalty to Allah. Islam is all loyalty and discipline. And keeping a promise is a part of loyalty, and being truthful is a part of loyalty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِي أُوفِي بِعَهْدِكُمْ وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ. Allah, He says, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِي, and fulfill my covenants, and fulfill my pacts, and fulfill my obligations. أُوفِي بِعَهْدِكُمْ, and I will fulfill your obligations. You know what it translates to? You be a person of Allah, you work for you have a life of Allah, and Allah, He's there for you. That's basically what it means. وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِي أُوفِي بِعَهْدِكُمْ وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, and fear me. Allah says, fulfill my obligations, fulfill my promises, and I will fulfill your obligations. I'll be there for you as well. I'll look after you, and fear me only. Interestingly, Allah, He ends this ayah by saying, and fear me. Because the number one thing that makes you not fulfill an obligation of God is fearing someone other than Allah. Allahu Akbar. The ending of the ayah is phenomenal. Allah, He reminds you at the end of the ayah. He says, fulfill my obligations, fulfill my pacts, don't break my promises, and I will be there for you, and I'll fulfill your pacts and your promises. وَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ, and only fear me. Because whatever is going to make you derail, whatever is going to make you not fulfill a pact of God, is you fearing someone other than God. And Allah says, don't fear anybody, fear me. And if you have fear of Allah, you win. And if you have fear of people, you lose. Know this for a fact. The one who only fears Allah, he's a winner. Everyone respects him. When you do something for people, you will always lose. You'll be number one loser. You'll be a clear loser. When you try to please people, my brother, don't ever forget this. When you try to please people, you will never please them. And you will always come up short-handed. When you do something with insincerity, you do dua to show off, you sing in dua to show off, or you read Quran in a melodious tune to show off, it comes off as showing off, bro. Whenever you do something to please someone, someone is going to say something about you. The one that goes and he only goes to please Allah, and he only wants Allah's love and rida, everyone loves him whether they want to love him or not, Allah, He makes them love him. Because he's a sincere individual, he has sidq in his heart. And if Allah loves you, everyone loves you. If Allah is pleased with you, everyone is pleased with you. You know, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves his slave, He calls out Jibreel, and He says, I have loved him, so love him. He commands Jibreel to love him. Allah, He commands Jibreel alayhi salam to love him, and He calls out to the angels of the heavens and the earth, and He says, I have loved so and so, so love him. And Allah gives the command for the angels to write acceptance on individual A. And individual A is loved by everyone because Allah loved him. You know, you seek the love of Allah, seek to please Allah, and everyone will be pleased with you. Because if you're a person of God, you're an unwavering individual. Loyalty includes adhering to all the contracts and treaties, whether with Muslims or non-Muslims, as long as the treaty does not violate the law of Allah or make you commit haram. This is something very important. We have people that have no understanding in the world. They say, oh brother, we live in a kafir country, kafir rules, kafir society. Brother, go back to Pakistan, brother. Go back. Pick up your bags, go back to Pakistan. Go have a happy life with electricity cut out in Karachi. Brother, you're in America. You have laws and regulations in America. You uphold the law and regulation of America, brother. You have respect for society. You have a word with a non-Muslim person. You have a Jew and a Christian in America. You have an atheist in America. You give him your word. I'm going to meet you tomorrow at 5. You say, brother, he's a kafir. I don't keep my word with a kafir. Brother, you're an idiot. You know what an idiot is? Look it up in the dictionary. You're an idiot. Astaghfirullah Adim, man. Astaghfirullah Adim. Astaghfirullah Adim. The Muslim is a person of etiquette. The Muslim has good etiquette. The Muslim has morals. The Muslim is the number one person who sticks to his appointment with a non-Muslim. This is the greatest form of da'wah. You have an appointment with your doctor. He's a non-Muslim, brother. You stick to that appointment, brother, else you're going to get charged $50 for being late. You guys don't get the joke. No, of course, like Muslim or non-Muslim, you have an agreement with someone, you keep the agreement. You abide by the law of the land that you're in. Unless there's something that contradicts your religion, of course, your religion comes first always, of course. The next thing is a vow to Allah. And we'll conclude with this. A vow to Allah. We have vows to people. We said, of course, your vow to people. We just said, Muslim or non-Muslim, you keep your vow to a person. You keep your word. You keep your promises. You have a non-Muslim employee. You tell him you're going to pay him $10.50 an hour. After 2 weeks, you say, no, man, he's not Muslim, man, he's a Hindu. Astaghfirullah, brother, he's a great guy, man. Hindu, may Allah guide him. Inshallah, you're a Muslim, he's going to guide him. You're a Muslim and you're outstanding, and your akhlaq and your adab and your conduct is going to make him not want to ever worship a cow again. He's going to say, I think it doesn't make sense. I think worshiping Allah makes sense. All jokes aside, man, all jokes aside. The greatest form of da'wah in the world. May Allah grant us all hidayat. May Allah grant us all guidance. May Allah grant us all guidance to keep us steadfast. May Allah grant us all guidance to keep us steadfast. The greatest form of da'wah in the world is your good conduct and your good character and upholding your vows. You have a non-Muslim employee, you treat him good. The same way you'll treat a Muslim, of course. You hold on to your word, and then he sees Islam through your actions. He sees Islam through your cleanliness. You know, he sees Islam through your ihsan. You know what happens, bro? You don't have to have arguments, halal, haram. You don't have to have argument about, what he believes and what you believe. You don't have to have this. This is a lot. Of course, when he comes up and he talks to you about your religion, then you tell him Allah is one, brother. Allah is one. Allah is one. Islam makes so much sense. It's so logical. Allah is one, omnipotent, all sustaining, everlasting. Allah is one true God. He created the heavens and the universe. He sent down prophets and messengers. We don't worship humans. We don't worship cows. We don't worship idols. We don't worship nothing. We worship God. God is one. God is omnipotent, everlasting, all sustaining. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Hayy al-Qayyum. He sent down prophets and messengers. Why? To guide us, to teach us the law, to teach us how to worship Him. They all worshipped one God. Islam is so logical. But to make someone Muslim, none of this is needed. One thing is needed. You be clean. You have a shower every morning. You pray Fajr. And you're going to be glowing with light. Glowing. You're a clean person. You're glowing. You go out and you conduct your day in a good manner. We speak about this all the time. You be a trustworthy individual in society. You be truthful in society. You be good to your neighbor. You smile in your neighbor's face. Your neighbor has 10 neighbors. Everyone doesn't look at her or him except for you. You say, hey, how are you doing, Jane? How are you? Good morning. Good morning. You say, brother, my neighbor is lesbian. Who cares, man? How are you, Jane? Good morning, Jane. I hope you have a great day. Then she becomes guided through you. That's all it is. Good akhlaq and good conduct and good etiquette. Every day the person goes home, he thinks to himself, yo, why is Muhammad so nice? He's strange. His wife wears that thing on her head. His kids all smile. They're so weird. He's thinking all this in his head. He's so confused. He's so confused about Muhammad and Ahmad. And, you say, brother, my name is Muhammad. You go to public school in America. I'm trying to be politically correct. You go to public school in America, if you dare pronounce someone's name wrong, he'll get really upset. No, bro, this is how you pronounce my name. But us, we have to accept oppression. No, bro, you could be happy for your name. Say, bro, my name is Ismail. 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 They say, oh, what's that mean? That's interesting. He said, it's in the Quran. You know the Quran, sister? It's the book of God. You know Ishmael in the Bible, Ishmael, Prophet Ishmael, the son of Abraham. She says, yeah, I'm a Christian, yeah. And then you say, yeah, I'm a Muslim. We have prophets and messengers as well. Dawah. And you have a great day, smile, this, that. You go to ShopRite again, you see the same lady at the same aisle. She goes, you again, Ishmael? Yeah. How you doing? How's your day? Everyone else is not asking her about her day. Everyone else is antisocial, paying with his Apple Pay, avoiding physical contact. You go to a restaurant, people don't talk anymore. They keypads and kiosks. You go to the restaurant to put in the order. Like the guy is there to take the order. He goes, no, I have to put it in here. Everything is lack of social interaction, man. I want to go to the supermarket to buy milk so I can see someone and say hi. I don't want to go pay and go. But now, khalas, we're like everyone else now. We want to just leave. So then there's a vow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another is a vow to Allah. Allah, he talks about vows in the Quran many times and in different contexts. There's a surah called Surah Al-Hajj. It's a beautiful surah. Wallahi, it's amazing. Because when we think about Surah Al-Hajj, we think that it's laws and regulations pertaining to Hajj. And fiqh, laws and regulations, is usually black and white. It's not so spiritual. It's black and white. For Hajj, you have to perform this kind of tawaf this many times. You do sa'i, you know, Safa and Marwa. You do jamarat. You do this, you do that. Laws and regulations. When you study a fiqh book, you open the fiqh book, it says Hajj has 10 pillars or 1 pillar, 10 wajibat, 10 sunnahs. You open the book of fasting. Fasting has 3 pillars. Niyyah, imsak, you know, black and white. Law and regulation is black and white. You say Salah has 10 fara'id and 11 sunan and 10 mustahabbat and 18 mubtilat and makruhat. You get it? It's like this. You do this, your Salah counts. You do this, your Salah is invalid. You do this, your Hajj counts. You do this, your Hajj is invalid. You miss standing on Arafah, your Hajj doesn't count. You missed the tawaf, you could do it again, but you have to give a certain amount of money. You know, laws and regulation. Surah Al-Hajj, the Surah of Hajj in the Quran, it talks about the interdimensions of Hajj, the spiritual aspect of it more. It speaks about some aspects of Hajj, but not the fiqh of Hajj. It speaks about the interdimension and the spiritual aspects more, and the nusuk, and the deep meaning behind sacrifice, and the deep meaning behind the different rituals of Hajj. In ayah in Surah Al-Hajj, Allah, He says, ثُمَّ لَيَقَدُوا تَفَثَهُمْ وَلِيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ وَلِيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. Allah, He says, and let them remove their ihram. Basically, when your Hajj is done, you could finally remove your ihram, and you could relax, and you could wear your undergarment and your shorts and your pants and your shirt, and you could wear your Nikes now because you're American. You got to show your Air Forces off, and you could go and you could be happy. You could cut your fingernails. Ihram, pilgrim sanctity, has certain laws and regulations. Everyone wears that white towel, 2 white towels, right? You can't do this, you can't do that, no perfume, no this, be careful, don't get a rash, you know. But then after Hajj is done, after the 10 days of Hajj is done, Allah, He says, ثُمَّ لَيَقَدُوا تَفَثَهُمْ. Let them remove their ihram and relax. وَلِيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ. And make sure they uphold their vows. Make sure you uphold all the vows that you said. So Allah, He alludes to, He refers to having a vow. A nadhr. A nadhr is a vow to Allah, right? وَلِيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ وَلِيَطَّوْفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. And let them do a final tawaf. بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. He doesn't say بِالْكَعْبَةِ. One of the names of the Kaaba is Al-Bayt Al-Atiq, the ancient house. Allahu Akbar, man. The Kaaba is the first house ever built for the worship of Allah alone. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he built the Kaaba with Sayyidina Ismail. And there's another opinion that Adam alayhi salam built it first and the angels built it before him. There's many. But a strong opinion is, let's say Sayyidina Ibrahim built it with Ismail first. Let's say he did. It's the ancient house of worship. The first house ever established to worship Allah alone is the Kaaba. That's why we ask Allah to grant us a Hajj and Umrah always. And when you go to the Mecca, you go in with your pilgrim sanctity, you go in the state of Ihram. Mecca is a sacred city, my brother. Mecca is not like anything else in the world. You enter Mecca and you're thinking, like, I'm in Ihram. My intention is to go to see Allah, to go and talk to Allah, to see His house. You get to the Kaaba, it's from the Sunnah to look down upon entering the Haram, and the first thing you see is the Haram. So when you see the Kaaba, all you do is cry, like a 4-year-old child. You say, why am I crying? Because I don't know, it's so beautiful. You know, we ask Allah to grant us ziyarah of His house, honestly. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. We have the mu'min, his heart is attached to the Kaaba. And we have the person, Khali al-Iman, his heart is attached to Atlantic City in Las Vegas. You have someone, he's thinking about how he's going to save to go to Las Vegas, because all he wants is haram. And you have someone, all he thinks about is the Kaaba. You have a person, he comes up to me and goes, Shaykh, I saw the Kaaba in my dream. I go, brother, may Allah grant me iman like you, man. May Allah grant me love for Allah and His house like you. That's a beautiful thing. Loving the sha'a'ir of Allah, loving the symbols of Allah is a sign of iman. And Surah Al-Hajj talks about this. Anyway, Allah, He says, let them take off their ihram and let them fulfill their vows, alluding to this, and let them make a tawaf around the ancient house. Allah, when He characterizes the mu'min, He says, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. Allah, when He characterizes a believer, a characteristic of a believer by Allah is the one who fulfills a vow. يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ. They stick to their nudhur. They stick to their vows. Yeah, and they fear a day that is a scary day. So what is a nadhr? What is a vow? A vow is me vowing to Allah, I will do something. I vow to Allah, I say, Ya Allah, if you grant me a child, I'll sacrifice a cow. Allah grants me a child. Is it a fard to sacrifice a cow randomly? Randomly, is it fard randomly without this vow? Do I have to sacrifice a cow in my life? No, not really, unless you do udhiyah, no. Like, sacrificing a cow is not something fard randomly. But when I say I vow that when God grants me a child or a baby girl, I'll sacrifice a cow. It has become incumbent upon me. Now it's fard. It's fard for me to fulfill the vow, because I made a vow to God. You could say I vow to God without any condition. You don't have to conditionize it. You can say I vow to God, I'm going to pray 10 rak'ah duha today. I'm going to pray 10 rak'ah in the time of duha today. It becomes obligatory upon you. Is salat al-duha an obligation, my brother? Duha is not an obligation. You get it? Sunnah is obligation? No. That's why it's called a sunnah, because it's not an obligation. Sunnah is duhur. Fard is duhur. Fard is fajr. Fard is isha. A sunnah means you do it, you get reward. You don't do it, you don't get punished. But if you vow to do something to God, you have to fulfill that vow for the reasons we mentioned. So don't break your vows is the point. And if someone vows to do something with Allah, he should fulfill it. Then there's many questions. There's like 100 questions that come under here. Should I vow? Should I not vow? It's best not to vow. The vowing is not going to change the qadr of Allah. But if you vow, you uphold it. I had a teacher in Egypt when I studied in Egypt. He used to love to vow. I don't know why. He loved to do it. But he always came through with his vow. His mother once got very sick. May Allah grant her shifa always and long life. Make my teacher always happy. He's a great guy. So his mother once got very sick. She was sent to the hospital. So he said, I vow that if my mother gets cured from this illness, I'm going to buy a Pepsi for everyone in the school. For all the teachers. One day I saw my teacher walking in with 4 bags of Pepsi. I said, what happened? He goes, no, I made a vow to Allah. I got to fulfill it. I was like, oh, nice. So when it comes to this, can you break your vow? So we're going to say something here. If you vow to do something haram, do you fulfill your vow? He said, brother, I'm a mu'min, I'm going to fulfill my vow. You're a mu'min, but your understanding is a little shut out. You don't vow to do haram, brother. You don't vow to do you vow to do halal, you vow to give money to the masjid, you vow to go eat something, you vow something good, halal. You don't vow to do haram. So if you vow to do haram, then what's the outcome? What do you do then? You do something called a kafara. Kafarat yameen. You do something called an expiation. Something that forgives you or relieves you of what you did. Something that forgives you or relieves you of what you did. This also goes for the person who vowed to do something and he could not uphold it. I want you guys to understand something. Vowing is not light. Like when you say I vow to do something, it's not light. So don't vow. Don't vow unless you know you could uphold it. Don't commit to doing something unless you could do it. Because vowing is not something light. Interestingly, in Islam, we learned something. And that's that everything that you do with your tongue is a big deal. Your tongue has a strong impact. In Islam, technically speaking, you get married. Your marriage contract is a verbal agreement. Marriage is verbal. Now we have the big nikah ceremony. We go to the big masjid that was just built last year and drive an hour and we take pictures. And the Shaykh comes and he writes with the nice pen with the feather and we have to do a big scene. And if you, no, that's nice, beautiful. But like I'm talking Islamically speaking, a marriage is conducted verbally. It's a verbal agreement. Excuse me. Marriage is a verbal agreement. It's a verbal agreement. Divorce is also verbal. When you release a slave, if you have slaves back in the day, it's verbal. You know, it's verbal. We learned something here that we have to highlight times 100, and that's that what you say with your tongue goes a long way. It's very serious. Because a vow to God is between you and God. It's not like I went to a judge and I told him I vowed to God this. No, you said it one day you were driving and you were having a tough time and your heart was hurting. You said, Ya Allah, I vow that if you grant me a pious spouse, I'm going to sacrifice 10 sheep. Like, I don't know, like you vowed. It's a big deal. Now God comes with his end, and it's time for you to come with your end. So if someone vows something haram, he has to do an expiation. An expiation or a kafara for a vow is a kafarat yameen. A kafara yameen is in the Quran. A kafara yameen is to feed 10 poor people a medium meal. You know what a medium meal is? It's not a $50 meal and it's not a $5 meal. I'll say it's in today's world 15 to 20, maybe $10 meal. You go, because if you go to a restaurant, you'll see something expensive is $17, expensive meal. The New York cheesesteak is $17, and you see the 2-slider deal, the 2-slider burger is $7. So we want we want the middle ground is, I'll say $10 to $15. You feed 10 poor people, $10 to $15 meals, how much are you paying? $150, $200. This is an expiation for your vow that you could not uphold, or your haram vow. The vow that you could not uphold, or your haram vow. Allah, He says, speaking about this in Surah Al-Ma'idah, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما عقدتم الأيمان فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم واحفظوا أيمانكم كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تشكرون. Allah, He says this kafarat yameen in the Quran. He says that for those of you who are not able to fulfill your vows, then what do? Your kafara is to feed 10 poor people a medium meal, or to clothe them. So either feeding 10 poor people meals, you could feed them in the same day, it doesn't matter, whatever, or you clothe 10 poor people, or clothing 10 poor people, that's a little more expensive, you know, or freeing a slave, there's no more slaves, so that expired, yeah, or and whomsoever is not able to do this, yani who does not have the financial capability of doing this, whomsoever does not have the financial means to do this, so he has to fast 3 days. He has to fast 3 days. But if you have the financial ability to do this, you do not have to fast. Lastly, I'm going to say something quickly because we're done, because I know everyone's tired. Loyalty also includes fulfilling debts. So a part of loyalty, what falls under loyalty as well, is fulfilling a debt, keeping a promise, not lying, keeping an oath. All of this plus fulfilling a debt. A sign of nifaq is someone who takes debt from someone and forget not fulfilling it, he doesn't even intend to fulfill it. You have someone, he takes a debt from someone, he has trouble. He has trouble paying him back. This is a different scenario. You shouldn't take a debt from someone if you're not going to pay him back. You should not. If you're in a dire need and you take a debt from someone and you have a difficulty paying him back, that's something else. I'm talking about the person that loves taking debt because he's sick in the heart. He takes a debt and he avoids the person he took the debt from. Even worse, the person that he took the debt from comes up to him and the person that debt him out is so embarrassed to even ask for him. He goes, who are you? You never gave me no debt. A'udhu billah. Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be a scary day for a lot of people. There's so many people that cheat people. You know that? There's so many people. There's so many people that cheat people out. And they deny. That's why when it comes to piety in the Masjid Fajr front row, don't fall for anything, bro. Big beard, small thobe, all of it, don't fall for that, bro. Someone comes to you and he has a business proposal. He says, I need $50,000 for this investment. Then he disappears off the face of the earth. No, bro, you take it, you go to a lawyer and you write it down. You have 5 witnesses. So when he denies it, you say, brother, look, I'm not crazy. Because then he'll make you think you're crazy because he's a psychopath. When you talk to a psychopath, you start to think you're crazy. You say, oh, maybe I didn't give him. Maybe I didn't give him. So, of course, paying a debt, paying off debt, paying a debt, returning a debt is a part of loyalty. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, a debt will be settled on the Day of Judgment. Yani, if you don't pay a debt, then on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that person will take your haqq from you. Yeah? If the one who owes it dies, except from 3 people. There's 3 people that are excluded from this scary hadith. And you take a debt from someone, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that person's going to take his haqq from you. And if you don't have money on Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's good deeds. He's going to take good deeds from you. And if you run out of good deeds, what happens? You start getting negatives. You go Jahannam. If you run out of good deeds, you start getting negatives. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that. Thank you. It's very nice. It's very nice. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that a debt will be settled on the Day of Judgment if the one who owes it dies, except from 3 people: a man who lost his strength fighting in the way of Allah, so he borrows in order to become strong again, to fight in the way of Allah again. So he borrows it in order to become strong again, to fight the enemy of Allah and his enemy. That person will be excused. A man who sees a Muslim die and he cannot find anything with which to shroud him except by taking a loan, and a man who sees a Muslim die and he cannot find anything with which to shroud him except taking a loan. And a man who fears Allah, if he stays single, so he gets married for fearing of losing his religious commitment, Allah will pay off their debt of these people on the Day of Judgment. And it was a sincere reason why he took a debt. It was a sincere reason why he took a debt, and he honestly couldn't pay it back. But this is a very nice term. It's called Sun' al-Muslim. Sun' al-Muslim is Muslim made in English. There's brothers that they started a podcast. It's the idea of the podcast is they interview local Islamic success stories, whether that's a Shaykh or an Imam or a business owner or a psychiatrist or a newscaster or whatever it is, a successful Muslim. They interview successful Muslims. Shaykh Osama and Shaykh Yasir Fahmi and myself were all interviewed by these brothers. They come to this class as well, and they're all here. Brother Ifat and Brother Mustafid and Brother Zunaid. They're doing a lot of good. We ask Allah to keep them sincere and to keep us all sincere. And we ask Allah for sincerity in all their actions and all their sayings always. But inshallah, we're looking forward to seeing what they produce, because we're from New Jersey, man, and we always hear about Dallas, Texas, and Michigan, and Detroit, and Flint, and all these things. Man, New Jersey is better than everything. Patterson is the 4th holiest city in the world. Just joking. All jokes aside, there's no place in the world like Patterson, New Jersey. Maybe Detroit is nice and dear, but everything is far. You go everywhere else, everything's far. Patterson, you get one strip. You get Turkey, Istanbul, you get Al-Quds, and you get Dimashq, and you get Dar'a. You get everything in one strip. You get shawarma, barbershop, Chinese, barbershop, shawarma. And Patterson is amazing. It's a beautiful city. It's blessed. It has a big waterfall. We have a waterfall. We have good food. But most importantly, the most beautiful thing about Patterson, New Jersey for me is the Muslim community. It's a very diverse Muslim community. I don't think the people of Patterson know what they have. Honestly, I say this because I'm from here. I was raised here. And then I lived in Egypt for 8 years, and then I went to Orlando, Florida for 3 years. Wallahi, this community, Patterson, New Jersey, is one of the most blessed communities I've ever seen. Patterson, New Jersey is basically a Muslim country, basically. You drive through Patterson in the middle of the day, you hear the adhan. You're allowed to make the adhan out loud in Patterson. In the Muslim countries, you make adhan out loud. So even then, you have Bengali Muslims, you have Palestinian Muslims, you have Syrian Muslims, you have Turkish Muslims. You have a big mix and variety of Muslims. You even have Circassians, a lot of Egyptians. You have Muslims from everywhere. And Patterson is not a large city in terms of area, but it's a large city in terms of barakah. And we have ICPC, the greatest masjid on earth, of course, after the Haram. And after the Haram in Medina, after Al-Aqsa, ICPC is all jokes aside, it's a very blessed community. It's a very active masjid. And I say this because I don't think the people here know what they have. I do not think that. I really don't, because I've seen the other side. And Dallas is all hype, and Texas is all hype. All these other places are all hype. New Jersey is where everyone is from. You go to Dallas, Texas, you say, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Boston. I'm from New Jersey. You go to Orlando or Miami, you say, where are you from? He goes, I'm from Patterson. Everyone is from here. The muscles are made here, brother. The Ford, you know how you have Ford? Ford is in Detroit. What's it called? Dearborn, they have the Ford, what's it called? Car company? What's it called? A car company? Where they make the cars? Car company? You have the Iman manufacturer here in Patterson. We outsource. No, wallah, it's beautiful. And we talked about this before. Rough conditions and cold conditions, because New Jersey is cold, pothole, freezing. These rough conditions, they breed strength. Rough conditions breed strength. Nice climate, big parking lots, strip malls, big coffee shops breeds laziness. You come here in New Jersey, everything is small. Parking is difficult. Everything is, what's it called? You got to park 4 blocks down to come to this class. But wallahi, the ajr is adeem. Patterson is an amazing city. I love it. Wallahi, I never want to leave New Jersey ever. It's amazing. Everything is difficult, expensive, but it makes you stronger. The ukhuwah, the brotherhood here is so strong. And we're talking about Masjid Yunus. Masjid Yunus, mashallah, small masjid. Barakah Allah. Small in size, barakah immense. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us ikhlas in all our actions and all our sayings. We ask Allah to make us people of truth and to remove from us all ailments of the heart and ailments of our tongue. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with our brothers and sisters all over the Muslim ummah, specifically in Gaza and Palestine and Lebanon and Syria. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Grant all of those who died in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria the status of martyrdom, and to destroy the oppressors, and to rid us of all the dhulm in the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people of Quran, and to lighten our comprehension with the Quran, and to make us love what is halal and to hate what is haram. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Inshallah, if anyone wants a book, we have the book. If anyone wants to purchase a book, we have a book, and I have one for you. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.